Well, greetings everyone, and welcome to another video. This video brings me back down here to Chester County again, to a place I was at probably about 4 weeks ago. And if you saw my previous video, which will be popping up there in the corner of the screen, I was down here in the end of March to explore the Warwick Branch of the Wilmington and Northern Railroad and the little village of St. Peter's. I walked pretty much a good distance from St. Peter's up to Tythall Road and checked out just parts of it right across the street. But I am back here again to explore from Tythall Road all the way down the right-of-way here as far as I can go. It's probably going to be another mile or maybe 2 miles down there, but I wanted to come back here and bang this out before all the vegetation starts growing in. And as you can see behind me, it really started growing in. What a difference 4 weeks make. It's been about a month since I was here and did the video down there in St. Peter's, and there was nothing growing. But things are growing right now. Leaves are pretty much coming on the trees, and the undergrowth and vegetation is growing. So it's going to be a little difficult to find any remains along the railroad bed here, if there are any. But I figured I'd come down here and try and bang this out, and this will conclude the series, if you want to call it, of the Warwick Branch of the Wilmington and Northern Railroad. So let's get started down the trail. So there is Tythall Road and the little parking area over there, and there is somebody else here today too that's probably walking some part of the trail here. But the first thing that I want to point out here, and I did a little bit more research and I covered it a little bit in my previous video, which we'll get to here in a minute, of another railroad that met up with the Warwick Branch down in St. Peter's. But right in here somewhere, there used to be a train station here at one time. And unfortunately, there are no photographs of the station that I could find or anything. The best I can do is put an old aerial photograph up there. I believe it's going to be from the 1930s. It'll come up on the screen there, and you should be able to see the little building that was here, right where I'm standing here just about, and that was the train station, and it was called Tythall Station, named after Tythall Road. So I don't see anything here, any remains of it or anything, but again, with everything growing here, it's going to be a little difficult to spot any remains if there are any. So, but a lot of interesting things I found out after the fact while I was editing my previous video, and what I found out after the video was already uploaded. And what a difference, again, that 4 weeks make. This was all not grown, or no leaves or anything on this when I was here before you could see into the woods. And yep, everything's growing in. But we'll venture down here and hopefully find some remains. Hope this whole trip here isn't a bust. So getting back to the railroads that service this area, this here was obviously the Warwick Branch of the Wilmington Northern Railroad, which was owned by which was the Reading Railroad. But there was another railroad that met up in St. Peter's, and it was a very short-lived railroad. It was supposed to have been the Delaware River and Lancaster Railroad, and it was supposed to start over at Point Pleasant and come out to Lancaster using various existing lines. The line itself that was actually owned by the Delaware River and Lancaster Railroad was a piece that went from St. Peter's Village down to Kimberton, where it met up with the Pickering Valley Railroad. It only lasted 3 years. It was completed in 1890 and was done in 1893. And it ran from Kimberton up here to St. Peter's Village and met up with the Warwick Branch via switchback, which I explained in my previous video that there was a switchback over there at St. Peter's Village to get the coal cars down to the quarry that was in operation. Davis Nauer, I believe he was the owner of the quarry, took possession of the railroad, and that was pretty much the end of it. So a short-lived railroad, had many troubles along the way as far as getting right-of-way, from the landowners and laying the track and everything. It was just a disaster from the beginning. There's very little information of it online. I believe the information I found on Wikipedia. So sometimes that's accurate, sometimes it's not. I also located, after the video, which I'll insert in here, and you can see the train stations that were over at St. Peter's Village. There was a train station as well as a little freight station. I don't know the exact location of them. I may drive down there after I'm done here to see if I could find possibly where they might have been. I have a feeling that the train stations were located on the switchback part, which is now private property, and we won't be able to access that. But there was train stations in St. Peter's. But as far as they have the ones, I should say the pictures that that it showed there are the ones from the Reading Railroad. As far as the ones go that were part of the Delaware River and Lancaster Railroad, there's no pictures, just information and a general area where they were. So walking down the path here, this is actually a good railroad bed here, and from the looks of it, this was just single track through here. But unlike the other side where we were crossing over the creek and everything, where it washed out and everything, that was bad railroad bed at the time, or it was good railroad bed, but now through flooding and eroding and everything, the railroad bed there is pretty much gone at spots. Nothing but big rocks. Hard to imagine a train coming through here, so many years ago, maybe 50, 60 years ago. But got to remember too, a lot of these trees aren't as tall back then as they are now. So I came across first proof with evidence here that the railroad was here. You look right down there at the creek, you can see some old railroad ties laying down there. There's some right over in here, and there's some right here. So we did find proof so far that there was actually a railroad here. So walking down here, I came to an interesting fork in the path. So standing here, I got two options here, and both of them look like they could be railroad beds. This one here definitely has the signature of a railroad bed, although that rock that's there, I highly doubt was there when the railroad was here, because that would be very narrow for a train to get through there. So this might have been moved here after the railroad was gone, because there was a bunch of other rocks over there that you can tell was taken from a quarry. And then this path over here looks like it could be a railroad bed too. The way the contour, it's raised up on either side there and everything. That could be a railroad bed too. But as far as I know, there isn't another Y along here. And I didn't think there was a Y along here before, but yes, we found that in my previous video where those bridge abutments were that I found. There was a Y there. So we're going to venture down this path here, which is the yellow or orange blaze that's on the rock there. So this is definitely one of the hiking trails. So we'll venture down here and see if we can find anything more with the railroad. And there's some of the rocks that were moved here at some point. You can see all where the drill holes were in them. You can tell man moved them. So we are definitely on the railroad bed yet, because I'm seeing the signature of the coal silt ballast and everything. So these rocks that we see along here were more than likely put in after the railroad was abandoned and torn out. And again, I believe the railroad was abandoned sometime in the late 1960s, early 1970s. But yeah, the way the alignment is there going out through here, those rocks were definitely, I believe, at least that big one, or that one right there that's squared off, that was placed there after the fact. And I did bring up Google Maps to see where I'm at here. Up off to the left here, there is an active quarry up there, which I believe is part of the Pennsylvania Granite Company. So my guess would be that other path we saw that looks like a railroad bed more than likely was a spur that went up to that quarry. So if time permits, on the way back, we'll head up that path there and see what we can find. Definitely got some eroding going on here. Little springs here or mud holes, and right down in there is another railroad tie laying. So this was most likely washed out here over the course of time. But definitely not a trail that you would bring the scooter on. I don't even think I would trust bringing a mountain bike, an electric bike, back through here. The beginning of it was okay, but the further back here we get, yeah, the railroad bed is deteriorating rapidly again. So now I know why this part of the trail isn't documented that well. It's because of this. And slippery conditions on the rocks there, as you just heard. But had to go down and bushwhack to bypass this to get back on the trail again. And this water is all cloudy, and this is from the operation up here at the quarry, disturbing the water underground. But just looking over there, it looks like somebody had dug this out or something at one time, because all those rocks laying over there were put there by man. They just didn't lay like that. All along here, you can see rocks laying, and just lined along the bank there of this creek or swamp hole, whatever you want to call it. But that's basically what this is here. This is a swamp, and this is from the quarry operations. And this trail is definitely in need of some maintenance along here, because with it being washed out back there in that water, probably doesn't get used that much because nobody wants to bypass that. But they don't come in here and trim some of this back at spots, in a couple years, there's not going to be a trail here anymore, and this railroad bed will cease to exist. It'll be overgrown. And as far as I know, there are very few videos out there documenting this branch of the railroad, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to come and document this. I think there was one other video on YouTube that might have been done recently of the this railroad here, but I don't know how much of it was documented. I think some of it was more or less down around St. Peter's Village. I have yet to find any videos documenting this trail here. In the wintertime, you would be able to see the edges of the railroad bed here and everything, but right now, and as the stuff grows more and gets greener, yeah, you're not going to be able to see the either side of the bed here. And we got lots of trees laying over here. Not sure if, I don't know my trees that well, if these are, I think these might be the ash trees that were destroyed by the that boar, the ash boar or whatever it was. But just look at this. You would never think that this was a railroad at one time, the way this looks. And of course, you're in the woods, and yeah, there's a tire there. How? You know, you wonder how they get into places like this, but yeah, there's a tire laying there. Again, I swear me and RJ have the luck with this when we're in the woods. Almost no matter where we go, we find tires in the woods. But on either side here, this is nothing but swampland here on either side of the bed. But this is slowly disappearing. Another 5 years, if this stuff isn't trimmed back, you won't be able to walk through here at all. And on top of it being overgrown with thorns and everything, now I'm contending with, you want to call it a creek or a spring running through here now. This is just terrible. That's, like I said, it's such a shame. And this is still owned by the county of Chester. I checked it on the GIS maps that I have, and yeah, this is owned by the county. Concrete brick or whatever that is there. It looks like it might be concrete, I'm not sure, but yeah, it says end with the number 4 there. So that's pretty interesting, finding that just laying here in this mess. This one is definitely going in the books as the worst abandoned railroad bed I have ever been on. This is just terrible, and now I know why there's no work being done to it back there when I first had a detour to get around that washout that's there where the swamp is. This would cost way too much money to lay stone in here and everything. So yeah, unfortunately, this is going to disappear in the next few years. But there is some more railroad ties laying there. So that's the only thing I'm finding along here is railroad ties, nothing else. Oh, found something right here. I can get over to it. Not sure if this would have been railroad related or not, but there's a concrete foundation for something. And there's definitely a post in there. So maybe this was something related to the railroad. They had a sign in here or something. I highly doubt it was a signal. That's too small to be a foundation for a signal. But definitely something there. All right, got through the mess out of the creek, and I saw where it started, and it's actually springs. But the county is sort of maintaining this trail because there were a bunch of trees that were laying across the bed at one time back there that were cut up, and some of them look like they were cut recently. So this part, I did check my GIS information to make sure this was still the county, and it is, even though I'm seeing posted signs on either side of the rail bed here, but this bed is owned by the county, so we are not trespassing. More evidence right there. Got about 3 more railroad ties laying there. There's an old pipe here that was under the railroad bed at one time for the spring that's here. But yeah, I just can't get over the terrible conditions of this. Another pipe there going across where I guess where there was a spring at one time, or for drainage or whatever. But we are just about at the end of our journey. I hear vehicles ahead, and that means we are coming up on Route 345, which is where we are going to turn around and go back. And I'm not looking forward to the journey back, going through that mess and everything. I definitely was not expecting this mess. And it's a good thing I did it now, because if this would have been the middle of summer, I highly doubt I would have got as far as I did. I probably would have turned around a long time ago and went back. I had to climb under that tree that's laying there, and yeah, you would never think you're driving along the road and wouldn't know it. You would never know that this was a railroad. And I get to the end, and what do I find waiting for me? The remains of a telegraph pole. The only one I saw along here. So this is Route 345, and I believe the railroad continues straight across, but that's going to be the end of it. I'll walk over there and see if there's see if the railroad bed is there, but I think this is it right here, remains of it. Yep, it is. There you can see the silt, but it's the end of the line for us. So I did check the GIS map that I have, and that's the other side of 345. That actually is private property, so the county doesn't own that, but it shows it picking up again on the other side of Laurel Road, which is just down the ways here a piece, where the grade crossing was there. And from Laurel Road all the way into Elverson is supposed to be owned by the county of Chester. but if that trail is anything like this one here, I won't be exploring it. So I had enough fun with this one. I'm making my way back now, and yeah, I got to fight through all that stuff that we saw coming out here. So what's going to be a couple seconds for you guys, unless I would find something, is going to take me a good bit of time to get back through all that nasty stuff and get back to where the split was there, where it looks like that siding went up there. I do want to try and check that out yet today. So there's another interesting piece, a brick out here in the middle of nowhere. And for what? What would that have been used for out here? And there's a piece of slag laying there. Just some of the things you find here. But I said it before and I'll say it again. Now I know why this wasn't documented much, because nobody wants to trek through the mess that I did. And I can safely say it was the first and the last time I'll be doing it. Another rock there from a quarry. You can tell that was cut by man. You see the divot right there where the drill mark is. So I missed that on my way out, but trying to look to see maybe if I'd find any poles laying along here, since they're going to be on my right, but no such luck. And even if there is, again, with everything being so green, you won't see them unless they're actually in the ground yet. But here's this pile of railroad ties. Looked like there was more than 3 here. Now there's quite a few of them here that are laying. But looking for remains of stuff is probably going to be coming to an end here with everything getting green, unless you can. There's some more ties right there. Some more laying down. There's a bunch laying down there. So yeah, looking for remains and trying to follow stuff with it being green is very difficult in the summer. So we're going to be switching gears and probably getting into other stuff, including more rail videos. So since the weather's getting warmer and it's not too terribly cold sitting by the train tracks, we'll probably start seeing more rail fanning videos coming up here sometime down the road. All right, so we made it back to where this siding goes off here. At least I'm pretty sure it's a siding. But for some reason it didn't seem as bad coming back through that mess as it did on my way out, but it was still a mess to go through, and glad I won't have to go through that again. So we're gonna go up this trail here, and this one here, if this was a spur going up to that quarry, it's got a little bit of a grade to it there, I can see from here. So we'll venture up there and see if there's anything interesting, because the trail can't be any worse than what I was already on. So this was definitely a spur going up here. Just by the way the elevated bed is, I'm seeing signs of the coal silt ballast. So this was a spur. So we'll see how far I can get up here, because I'm seeing some buildings through the trees there. So hopefully we can get pretty close and see where it went in this quarry. So I came to the end of the line because I'm seeing boundary markers right there, and the other clue that is, yeah, right on that tree over there. So we are at the end of the line, and there's signs back there. So this is the boundary of the quarry and the county park and everything. So we cannot get up there any further, but at least I can try and zoom in there for you. And you can see one of those big, I believe those are ukes. So there's one of them sitting up there. It doesn't look like it's in use. Looks like it was pretty much abandoned. So they probably just moved it into the woods there to let it rust away. And then there's some other buildings to the right of it there and everything. So wherever the railroad went up there, we don't know. So there's no documentation. I've never found any documentation saying that there was a spur going up here, but I know there were plenty of quarries over here, and they got lots of materials out over here between these quarries and the Grace mines over there at Joanna Furnace, you know, for Bethlehem Steel at one time. So, but my assumption is that this is definitely a spur that came up in here. But I'll have to, if I can find any old aerial photographs again to confirm it, I'll look, but based on my observations, that's what I'll say this was. So, time to head back to the car, and then I believe that's going to wrap it up for this video. So you got about a little over a quarter of a mile or so to get back to the car. I just saw a vehicle pass the crossing out there. So I hope the county does find funding to continue this trail on up to 345 up there. It would be nice, but I believe it's going to take a lot of work to level that out there, take care of the drainage problems and get rid of all that water that's in there, because how can something so nice like this just, for lack of a better term, go to hell like that, like it did up there? But you know, 50 some years of Mother Nature, you know, the elements eroding, flooding, everything else. Yep, nature will reclaim it eventually. So that is going to wrap it up for this video. So hopefully you enjoyed this adventure. And yeah, it was an adventure. I got a little bit more than what I bargained for here following that trail and everything, but I didn't want to quit or turn around. I wanted to press on and make it out there to 345, and we did, and made it back and checked out that spur. So that is going to be the end of my exploration of the Warwick branch here of the Wilmington and Northern Railroad, unless I get some good information that the trail from out there from Laurel Road all the way into Alverson is in decent shape, but I highly doubt it's going to be. So if you did like the video, please give it the thumbs up. Also, if you just found the channel and you're new, consider hitting that subscribe button down there in the corner of the screen. And if you are a subscriber to the channel and you want to be notified when I upload content, you can ring the bell down there in the corner as well. So thank you to all the new subscribers recently over the past couple weeks that subscribed to the channel. I appreciate every one of yous. And to all the followers that follow me on the other social media platforms out there, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. So until next time, let's have a ball and do it all. We'll see you soon.